and we're really getting close now. We just got a few more things to sort of button up, and we'll be ready to make our first cuts on this machine. So on the list for today, I have to make some stock collars for these shafts. The first one goes here on the flywheel shaft, and it's just a collar that slides on, and there's a pin that goes through it to hold this flywheel onto the shaft. Got the boring bar set up, and I've been taking some cuts on the inside of this just to true up the bore, because sometimes a drill bit doesn't cut a round hole, so you want to take a single point tool and true that up. And I'm getting ready to take some measurements. Now, if this was a critical component, I could use this tool called a telescoping bore gauge, and I could put it in here and set it, and then do the measurement, measure this then with a micrometer. And that's a highly accurate way to do it. But for a bushing like this, that's not really all that critical, the dial calipers will work, and we'll just measure it that way. Okay, now to turn the OD of this part, the bore is too small to put the chuck jaws inside to hold that way. So what I'm going to do is use this tool. This is a set of expanding mandrels. So you've got a tapered mandrel right here, and you've got this little collar that has a corresponding taper on the inside. And then it has these holes alternating one side to the other, and there is a split also alternating from one side to the other, one end to the other. And that allows this collar to expand as it's forced into this, onto this taper. It expands to match bores of different sizes. So we'll put this in here and we'll expand this thing out, and then we'll just take our brass hammer and give it a couple of taps just to get a good register on that bore. The mandrel has center holes in each end, and it has a flat, so I can use a lathe dog to turn this between centers, and we'll turn the OD, and it will be perfectly parallel with the ID. And I've replaced the chuck with the drive dog, or the dog plate for the lathe. And I've got the drive dog right here. Of course, the mandrel with our part mounted on it is between centers. So I've got a number 3 Morse taper center in the headstock, and I've got a number 2 Morse taper with a live center down here in the tailstock end. So I went back out to the machine and took some measurements, and I got to looking. I don't think I like the idea of a straight collar there on that flywheel shaft. So what I'm going to do is I've got my compound set up here and swung around, and I'm going to cut a taper on this bushing, and that I think will just make, and maybe with a little end detail here too, like a little flange here at the end, and I think that'll give a better look overall that matches the look of the machine. So we'll cut that taper in this setup. Okay, so we've got our collar. I'm going to slip that on there, and that's a nice fit. And also, I like the little detail. It's much better looking than just a straight collar would have been. We've got a little bead back here at the pulley, which is just a little bit smaller than the diameter of the hub. And then we've got a relieved area here in the center that's on a taper. And then there's another little bead detail right here at the outer edge. Now, to secure it, there's a hole bored horizontally through the shaft. And you could put a spring pin in there. But as this shaft is only supported at one end, and that is in this fairly thin cross section of the leg, I don't really want to use a hammer or anything and try to knock a pin in there on this end of the shaft. It might break something back in here in the frame and cause damage. So instead, I've machined a small drill rod pin that's a very good fit in this cross hole, and I'm just going to secure that in place with a little bit of anaerobic adhesive.